Thanks, folks. My name is Brian Casserly. I'm a cybersecurity analyst with Resilient Defence, as Emma just went through there. I'm here to talk to you today about the cyber threat landscape and risk mitigation. In other words, what kind of threats are out there for you as an everyday user of the internet and for your companies and organisations. What's the threat to your data and what's the threat to your finances or your money? So first of all, you've kind of got up in the top left corner there, you've got cyber criminals. And they're your bog standard everyday run-of-the-mill criminals, okay? It could be an organised crime gang, it could be any kind of like teenager who knows a bit about computers, knows a bit about networks in their bedroom. They have access to your information and the damage they can do, okay? So from one end of the scale, it's a large kind of operation. The other end of the scale, it's somebody who knows how to access networks and looks for vulnerabilities on other people's networks. After that, then you've got nation states, and nation states is any country in the world, you name them, has invested money into either cyber warfare or cyber espionage or some sort of act on networks that can access your information or disrupt your information, disrupt communications, anything like that. After that, you've got hacktivism. These are people who don't agree with large corporations, they don't agree with political views of politicians or companies or anything like that, and they will try and cause disruption to websites, try and spread fake news, that sort of stuff about companies, and try and do reputational damage to those companies. After that, we've got corporate espionage, which isn't really talked about in the world too much, but it is happening on a daily or even weekly basis. Companies are trying to get one up on each other by seeing what kind of project plans they have in place, what kind of vulnerabilities might be in a company's network to see if they can access it and see what's going on inside that company, all right? After that, we've got what's called insider threat. Insider threat can be malicious, it can be a former employee, it could be a disgruntled employee who doesn't like the way you do things in your business. You might have disciplined an employee in the past. Those people can either instigate cyber attacks or sell data or sell financial information to the highest bidder on the darknet or your rival company. The other side of that coin is people who accidentally trigger cyber attacks like phishing emails, they click onto malicious websites through social media, that sort of thing. These people are kind of unintentional insider threat. After that, then we've got terrorism. In terrorist circles, anybody who works with defence contracts, military contracts, government contracts, anything like that, terrorists would be extremely would love to know what's going on inside your building plans, your contracts, that sort of thing. So they're the kind of people who are out there and are the people who are involved in the threat to your data and your finances. So after that then, just some examples we have. We can see here inside the Business Insider UK magazine, basically a US general coming out and saying North Korea have some of the best hackers and they're a threat to global data. There's been a couple of documented cases where North Korean hackers have been caught accessing the data of large corporations, namely the Sony attack, which happened back in 2013. They basically attacked Sony's networks and retrieved a lot of information, a lot of financial information of the people in that company. You can see here our own Irish Times saying that our own state is vulnerable to cyber attacks. We have a lot of cyber infrastructure in this country, although if you probably lived in the Midlands somewhere, you probably say we haven't got broadband yet. But unfortunately, we're connected to the US, we're connected to Europe, we're connected to the UK by a lot of underground cables or underwater cables on the island. You've also got here in the bottom left in relation to cyber criminals, we have our own Kinahan gang here. A couple of investigations that happened in Europe during the summer or during the spring. In the Czech Republic and Belgium, they found numerous warehouses or rooms that contained servers or computers that were mining Bitcoin. Basically, the gang was using Bitcoin to launder money, either through the darknet or through other forms of Bitcoin to basically legitimize their profits from ill-gotten gains. And after that then, might be something more personal to yourself. It was for me. Ticketmaster was recently hacked there during the spring. My own card got skimmed in this attack and my financial details were hacked, if you want. But luckily enough, the guys in Bank of Ireland were on the ball and I got a new credit card within a couple of days and the transactions were all stopped, okay? So just on a kind of a personal level yourself, using your own day-to-day websites on the internet. So how are these threat actors doing that? Basically, the best way for them to do it or cause disruption to networks is through malware, malicious software. Malware has been around for years. The likes of viruses here has been around for nearly 30 odd years since we've had computer networks or computers. Other forms of malicious software we've got there is the likes of a Trojan horse, named after the story from Greek mythology where the Greeks sent the replica horse into the city of Troy after the siege of Troy, and inside was a lot of Greek commandos who jumped out and caused havoc in the city. Basically, a Trojan is a carrier for all the other kind of types of malware and will affect your networks. It will masquerade itself as a document or a file or an executable program or something like that. And it wants people to click on it to install the malware. So it's probably carrying something like this, something like rootkits, which will go into the background of your system information and do whatever. Turn your devices into a botnet, which we'll discuss in a bit, or take control of it, see what you're doing, harvest your data, that sort of thing. After that, what you're probably seeing on your phone these days is adware, advertisements popping up on your phone. You probably have to download an ad blocker from your app store to try and prevent it from happening. Some of them can lead to malicious websites depending on the type of website or type of ad that it is. Worms, which are nasty creatures altogether, they're a computer program that will bounce around the networks looking for ways in or ways to disrupt the network and information. If you think about what a worm does to an apple that's fallen to the ground, it will eat inside the core and destroy everything that's inside it. That's basically what a worm program is doing. Botnets, as I mentioned, I'll show you a kind of a botnet attack later on, but it's basically taking control of devices. So if you work in a large office with a large network of computers, you aren't using them from 5 o'clock in the evening to, say, 6 o'clock next morning. A botnet could take that over, use your processing power for things like Bitcoin mining, or use it to carry out denial of services attacks. Spyware then, which is, some of it can be legitimate. It can be used to monitor your children's activities or younger members of your family's activities online or on devices, that sort of thing. But then again, you've got the other side of the house, which is actually spying on you. So you have malicious software that can turn on webcams, that sort of thing, on your devices. In the business world, if somebody's spying on what's happening inside your organization, they might get to see sensitive data, they might see your business practices, that sort of thing. It's something to be aware of. So malware is a kind of attack vector that the cyber threat actors are using. Just to show you there, the top one was keyloggers. This is what keyloggers look like these days. They look like USB devices or extension cables, which keyboards can be plugged into or USB sticks can be plugged into, and they're trying to harvest data off whatever device you have plugged into it. These are the old school kind of ones here. We've got the older style keyboard and mouse plugins, the purple and green ones. You can see the keyboard, the outside one is plugged into a device that will be retrievable by the attacker and harvest the data you've been typing in on your keyboard. This kind of new device down here at the bottom masquerades as a USB plug-in device. Even has a little red light to say your device isn't charged. Goes green when the device is charged. It will charge your device, but it'll also harvest the data that's being transmitted over the network of the device or the Wi-Fi in the office, that sort of thing. Not only are they using networks or malware, that sort of thing, but they can use, attackers themselves will pretend to be someone of importance. They pretend to be a security auditor, they pretend to be a technician, something like that, to check your networks. That's called social engineering. They'll come up with some sort of story, like a pretext of story. Might be an emergency situation where they need to get in contact with someone via a network. Maybe they have to send an email, maybe they have to contact somebody via Skype, that sort of thing. They'll impersonate, as I said, technicians, workers, you name it. They can even bluff you on social media by making fake accounts, and they can use activities such as tailgating, which is following you into secure areas that you might use a swipe card or a PIN code to access. You might get you to hold open the door, that sort of thing. After that then, shoulder surfing. Okay, this could be somebody who's sitting in the audience working on a device, someone sitting behind you looking over your shoulder, and it can go as far as people using miniature cameras to record people's PIN numbers at ATMs or at security gates, that sort of thing. After that then, we've got the likes of dumpster diving, which is checking waste management facilities or checking waste paper bins for confidential information such as passwords or critical information that may have been discarded in the waste management facility. So the common types of attacks they're using, for those people using open Wi-Fi, not looking at the Crow Park Wi-Fi, but if you're using such Wi-Fi, your certificates can be spoofed. The website your contact, some sort of attacker can sit in the middle and basically spoof your certificate, pretend it's the website you're going back to, and harvest your information. Okay, that's known as a man-in-the-middle attack. Somebody sits on a network and watches your activity on the internet. After that, then, we just talked about there, this is a type of distributed denial of service attack, where an attacker takes control of a zombie network of unused computers that are sitting idle somewhere in an office over the weekend or in the evening, something like that, and uses the process power of those devices either to attack a website or to harvest bitcoins or other kinds of cryptocurrency. And we've got other such attacks like a password crack here. This is basically an automated tool that's trying to guess the password of a Wi-Fi network. The Wi-Fi network here, in this case, the password was this jumble of letters and numbers here. And you can see that the actual automated tool itself It took about 9 million guesses to guess that password, and it took about 48 seconds for that program to guess the password. So that's why we try and advocate people use strong and long passwords. So from from the financial side, we've got business email compromise. This is the old type of spear phishing, where they'll harvest information about you from your websites and try and gain access to your financial information online. They'll try and spoof your financial department to try and send financial information or financial transactions to other accounts. Okay, and this is taken from the FBI's website here. It sounds a little bit far-fetched. Okay, it's happened numerous times in this country. Here's just one example here. A bogus email scam, a businessman's payment for construction work, 70,000 euros. All right, he was scammed out of. The Gardaí only recovered half of that money. So as a businessman who was paying for his construction work, he's down 35,000 euros due to scam emails. Other type of attack there, the Meath County Council, 4.3 million euros transferred to an account in Hong Kong. Okay, the CEO of that particular wing of the county council was away on holiday, and the person who was left there didn't realise that it was a scam, sent off the 4.3 million to the bank account requested by the attackers. Luckily enough, it was intercepted by the Hong Kong police before anyone could carry on with the finances. So then we had the ransomware attacks that happened last year. Okay, during the spring there we had the WannaCry. During the summer we had the Petya or the Petya 2.0 attack, and then we had the Bad Rabbit, which happened in December of last year. What was hitting the construction sector at the time was Saint-Gobain, the French construction firm. They were hit. They released a statement basically saying the Bad Rabbit software ransomware targeted their networks, and they were shut down for 2 weeks. Eventually got back on their feet. A knock-on effect of that was the Dewson's builder supplier inside the UK was hit by the same attack, knocked their website offline, knocked their networks out of commission. And as a direct result of that, Dewson got hit again. Their website was targeted again by malicious actors who probably spotted something during the ransomware attack. And there was a data breach of approximately 1,659 customers. Their financial information was released out onto the internet. So basically, all this sort of information here, payment details, card expiry dates, CVV numbers, emails, phone addresses, passwords, all released onto the darknet on that particular attack. And it probably cost them a pretty penny in revenue to try and fix it up. Okay, so future threats then, as we talked about today, we talked about smart cities and networks, that sort of thing. In the future, we're going to have automated construction equipment moving about building sites. My 15-year-old self, if I get my hands on an automated JCB, the damage that a 15-year-old would do to his own school would be unbelievable. Okay, so protecting the networks that are controlling automated devices, smart cities, the data that can be collected from the likes of a smart bin that we talked about. Why would that be relevant to an attacker? Could be a terrorist organisation. They could see the footfall in any given area next to a smart bin at any given time of the day, plan an attack around that time of the day, that time of the week, wherever it is. All that kind of information is relevant somewhere to a cyber threat actor. Just going to show you a quick video here. Kind of the way we mitigate the risk of all this is staff training, okay? Trying to prevent phishing attacks and try to prevent the common mistakes we're making inside the office. I'll show you a quick video from our Illuminate sister company here.
So what can you do if ransomware strikes? 1. What was the last thing you did? Open a file or email? Plug in a USB stick? 2. Write down what you saw on screen, noting any identifying details. 3. Contact IT and management immediately. If you access the Wi-Fi router, turn it off. 4. Now do nothing till they arrive. Don't remove any USB device, CD, DVD, or external storage. That concludes this short course.
Okay, so that's kind of what we offer as a service through Resilient Defence. We try and mitigate the risk for your employees, be the administrators or they work in your finance department, and we try and get them trained up on the common mistakes people are making in the cyber environment. For example, falling for phishing schemes. We kind of have a list of a common sense approach there. I'm short on time, so if you do want to know more about that, I can explain to you outside. We're at stand number 4 there, and Kirsten can explain to you about the likes of our Illuminate program. So where's this all kind of going? Kind of a rise in risk assessment basis. We'll show you all that. I can give you the paperwork outside. We'll give you a snapshot of your company's cyber security and what kind of state you're at. Okay, and these last few guys here, all right, this is kind of what not to do when we're talking about the common sense approach. These guys broadcasting passwords out here on television networks in the respective companies. We've got the Met Office here in London, okay, broadcasting their Winter 14 Wi-Fi password to the world. These guys here in the Super Bowl security room, MSNBC broadcasting their device passwords, and these guys in France broadcasting their Wi-Fi password. And that's our kind of common sense approach to that. If you have any questions at all, I'll be outside in stand number 4, and we can ask, or we can deal with any of your comments or any queries that you have. Thanks very much for your attention, folks.
There as well. And we've a little bit of time allowed for any questions on what Brian has presented. So if anybody would like to ask a question now of Brian, please raise your hand.
Yes.
I know that it's impossible to hear if you talk without the microphone. I've obviously been using computers for 30 years now plus, and this has been a common problem, but it's becoming more and more severe. How in actual fact does an ordinary person keep ahead, you know, or who do they go to get protection? You know, is it something that you just have to rely on suppliers like McAfee and others to build in, or is there something else we should be doing? Or indeed the same would apply to small companies?
Well, yeah, that's a very good question. That's kind of where we were coming into that kind of market. We found a lot of small companies can't invest heavily into cybersecurity, unlike the larger companies who have the likes of McAfee or Symantec on speed dial and have their networks monitored. The smaller kind of companies, while they don't have that infrastructure either, they still need to take precautions. So with the likes of Resilient Defence and other kind of cybersecurity companies, we try to provide a service for those the small to medium enterprises who also need cybersecurity. We do that through training of staff to show them the latest kind of threats, like phishing, sending you false emails, that sort of thing. And we try and reduce the cost for those companies themselves.
Could I just share one other small point? One of the companies I'm a director of, it had an attack, and the actual malicious, the malware, it didn't activate until a fortnight after it had actually been installed. So that just going back, 2 days with your backup storage, it didn't work. I mean, is that something that's become common now?
It is, yeah. That kind of dead man switch on a kind of malware can be commonplace as well. But again, one of the points on our common sense approach would be backup. Would be within our top 3 points. First one being staff education, but the second one would be back up all your data as often as you can. Therefore, if you do get an attack tomorrow, at least you've got today's data backed up, as opposed to only backing up once a month. If you get hit at the end of the month, you've lost an entire month's work. So again, we would advocate backing up data, that sort of thing. Thanks very much. Any more questions?
Brian, with our construction sites becoming more kind of cloud-based, where all our data is in the cloud for all the users to be able to access the information, how open to cyber attack is that information on our construction sites?
It depends on the security of the network. As we mentioned earlier, with the kind of Internet of Things, it's going to become there's going to be a larger presence of those kind of networks on construction sites, especially when things start getting more automated. The likes of drones, the likes of Wayne Floyd out there at Survey Drone, he'll be able to tell you all the things that drones will be able to do. But those networks themselves, there will be the 5G networks, the Wi-Fi out there, they will all at some stage need to be updated as new security flaws are found. If you're the company that's not updating those flaws in those networks, there's a chance that someone will target you, whether they're 1,000 miles away in a different country or whether they're down the road and can access your network. The outcome would be similar. They're looking for financial information or data. But as we're saying there, yeah, on the construction side of the future, networks will be more prevalent than ever. Any more questions?